Hello, people of YouTube. My name is Tio Dragic, and if you couldn't tell, I think the title is pretty self-explanatory, but welcome to Daily Conservative. Now, on this YouTube series, I'm going to take a couple of issues that conservatives face and give them ways to combat leftist theories. I say theories because none of them are actually applicable. So, the first of which, normally I'm going to ask you guys for topics that you want me to kind of make videos about, but my sister asked me to do one on affirmative action because she just loves hearing me argue. Go figure. A little background information. I'm kind of iffy about giving out information on YouTube right now, but I'm a pre-law student. I'm a real estate agent here in Arizona. I'm 19, believe it or not. And yeah, I've always been interested in politics, and I think it's always interesting to make videos kind of explaining different topics within politics, specifically ones that are kind of arguable, like affirmative action, the positives and the negatives. So I'll kind of give my take about it, and I'll use evidence to back up everything I say. The reason I do this, of course, is because my opinion doesn't matter. But if you have something to back up whatever you're talking about, then it makes it seem more applicable and it makes it seem more relevant. So, affirmative action. Now, this entire concept of affirmative action started in 1961 when JFK introduced the Executive Order 10925. Now, this executive order was to stop employers from discriminating against people based on race, based on age, based on sex, based on sexual orientation. What this means, of course, is that employers could not discriminate against people just because around that time period the civil rights movement was going on, and this was a way to kind of get that narrative and keep it rolling. Personally, I don't see an issue with that, except, of course, that government shouldn't really be involved in our day-to-day lives. So the entire concept of employers not being able to make decisions for themselves kind of seems overreaching as far as what government should be able to do. Being a conservative, I believe that government should be limited. And what I mean by that is government should not have full control over people's lives, and that's kind of the issue with socialism and communism, because these theories kind of push the idea that government should have all the control and should either, in terms of socialism, distribute all the wealth within the society through programs that are run by the government, or communism, where it just distributes wealth to the people. Of course, this diminishes the idea of people being able to fend for themselves and being able to have the same opportunities to get whatever kind of jobs they want and get the pay that they want. But going back to this issue of affirmative action, when it started with this executive order, it wasn't that big of an idea because, of course, it was difficult to implement it without the backing of the actual federal government. It was an executive order, but it wasn't really as popular as people wanted it to be. What I mean, of course, is during that time period, during the civil rights movement, people wanted more in order to cut back on all the racism that was going on during that time period. However, when we stop to think about it, this executive order essentially allowed government to step in to the workplace and dictate to employers what they should and shouldn't do. Now, this, of course, is necessary in terms of the paperwork that employers need, in terms of what they should be doing on a daily basis. However, to stop employers from simply hiring and firing people based on their race kind of seems overreaching. I'll give this example. If an employer decides to base their decisions on race or on sexual ethnicity or on sexual orientation, then they're going to get run out of business. That's how it works in the United States. Because, of course, there's going to be another employer who's willing to hire somebody that the other employer wouldn't. And therefore, it'll also drive out business, because if that employer chooses not to do business with certain races, then those other races will just find somebody else to work with. However, as affirmative action relates to society modernly, we can see that there have been a couple negative consequences as a result of affirmative action. Now, it's moved past people being discriminated based on their race and based on their sexual orientation to more of people getting benefits based on their race and their sexual orientation. What that means, of course, is that people who have a different race than what's thought to be normal, and by normal I mean Caucasian, because that's what liberals tend to establish as the norm. So anything that goes out of bounds with that, then they should get special benefits, which of course is an issue. Now, when we look at an article published by The Atlantic on October 2nd, 2012, it states that it's the painful truth about affirmative action. Now, they took a poll to see how students fared on the SAT and what happened as a result of their scoring on the SAT when they were applying to colleges. And at the University of Texas, they saw that the typical black student receiving a race preference placed at the 52nd percentile of the SAT. This means that they were relatively in the middle of all applicants applying to colleges, and therefore not really competitive as other people who placed higher on that percentile. However, they were being accepted at twice the rate of people who were of Caucasian descent that were applying to colleges that were in the 89th percentile. What this means is people who were highly competitive at essentially the top 11% of all the incoming SAT people were being accepted at this university at the same rate of people that were at the 52nd percent of the SAT. Now, this is an issue, of course, because this means that the backlash of people after they finish college is relevant. What this means is if people get accepted to colleges and get scholarships simply for being a certain race, then when they finish college, they're not prepared to handle the actual real life applications of what they've learned and what they've done in college. What this means is people who tend to study at a lower rate than people who are at a higher percentile in the SAT tend to be lazier and tend to do not as much in class. Now, when they actually finish class, this poll showed that black college freshmen are more likely to aspire to science or engineering careers than white freshmen, but mismatch, which is the theory that people who are accepted simply based on their race causes blacks to abandon their fields at twice the rates of whites. This means that these students simply aren't ready for these careers that they're going into. However, they were accepted anyway simply based on their race. And blacks who start college interested in pursuing a doctorate and academic career are twice as likely to be derailed from this path if they attend a school where they are mismatched. What this means is blacks who tend to apply to colleges and get in simply based on their race are not ready to handle the challenges of that college and therefore get off the path that they were normally supposed to go on. This means that schools who use affirmative action as a way to accept students into their bounds aren't really preparing them for the actual real world and what that university expects from them. It also shows that almost half of black college students rank in the bottom 20% of their classes and the bottom 10% in law school. Facts speak for themselves. We've shown that not only are students who are accepted based off affirmative action not ready for the universities that they get accepted to, but they tend to rank lower within those universities once they're actually accepted. Now, in this next episode, we'll review what it means after they actually finish school and what affirmative action does in the workplace. This has been Theo with Daily Conservative, and if you guys have any topics or anything that you want me to do, just comment down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's hit that conservative.